Hello, folks. Good to see you all here back. And it's great to see you again at LETCON Day 3 conference. So, here we are back and we are here to like conclude our session for the third day. We are here to talk about the emerging technologies. We are here to explore more about emerging technologies than we have done, for the last 2 days. We are here to specifically learn emerging technologies, get a gist of it, understand what exactly, uh, you know, emerging technologies like blockchain, like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, augmented reality, virtual reality, quantum computing, all of these, what does it mean? So after having a powerful session and a power packed session yesterday, wherein we had sessions on augmented reality, virtual reality, we all understood how we can actually make filters on Instagram. And then we have learned about emerging technologies, quantum computing, and blockchain. Today we have a very series of interesting, very interesting sessions today. So, without wasting much time, welcome you all to day 3 of LETCON. We are here to, enjoy for the next 3 to 4 hours. We are here to learn a lot of amazing things. Let's see what we have in today. Great, welcome. And now we have, welcome to the day 3 of LETCON, navigating the future with emerging technologies. So LETCON stands for Leaders of Emerging Technology Conference. So now we bring you variety of leaders who are working on emerging technologies all at one place wherein you can learn all about emerging technologies from them directly sitting at your home. So we have moved our journey when we started the conference on 20th of August, which was our day 1. We moved to 21st, which was our day 2. And now we are finally at the day 3 of the conference. So before moving ahead, I'd like to thank our sponsors and outreach partners. So specifically, the sponsors are WazirX, Zenfin Hybrid Blockchain or XDC, Blockon, Blockstack, and Quillhash. We thank you all sponsors for helping us and supporting us for this conference. Without you, this conference would have really been difficult. Thank you for supporting us. Now, for the outreach partners, we thank Machine Learning India, Matic, Coding Blocks, BChain Dynamics, DeFi Africa, Blockchain at India, and Accelero, and lot many others who have helped us a lot and who have helped us, promote this conference among the audience and help us reach to the actual students who can be impacted from this conference. Thank you all, our outreach partners. So guys, as we see, we have an interesting set of speakers today. We have speakers. So this particular day, you can call it as a day focused on blockchain and AI. So, or like fields of blockchain and AI, which includes cryptocurrencies. I've seen a lot of comments from you guys since the last 2 to 3 days, wherein you have been asking about, is cryptocurrency illegal in India? What about cryptocurrencies? So now let's just see what speakers do we have in for today. So today we have Anoush Bhasan. Anoush Bhasan is uh, founder at Quagmire, Consulting. We have Nemish Sangvi, who is CEO at CoinCrunch India. We have Alex Romanov, who is co-founder and CTO at Beam Protocol. Then we have Siddharth Sogani. Siddharth is founder and CEO at Cribaco Global. We have Aman Sanduja from Team Zubi, who is a blockchain expert and co-founder at Zubi. Then we have Sparsh Datta. Sparsh is here to take a workshop on machine learning, which will help you understand how exactly you can unlock the job opportunities, the how you can crack the interviews, and what are the important things that you want to learn for machine learning. Then we have Siddharth Menon. Siddharth Menon is co-founder and CEO at WazirX. We have Varun Sethi, founder of Blockchain Lawyer. We have Rajat Gehlot from Quillhash team, who is a co-founder at Quillhash Technologies. So we have so many interesting speakers. Let's just see what the agenda is for today. So for the agenda, we have the opening ceremony, which is currently going on. It will last up till 3:55 around. Post that, we have Alex from Beam, who will be talking about why everyone in the crypto is talking about private DeFi. DeFi is decentralized finance, and trust me, guys, it's on a roll these days. You find lots and lots of people talking about DeFi. DeFi is on actual hype at current stage, and it's in immensely it's in discussions among all the places that are related to blockchain or cryptocurrencies. Post that, we have a panel discussion. The panel discussion topic is India's Atmanirbhar crypto mission before and after regulation. What is the scenario before and after? In this panel, we have interesting speakers. We have Naimish, we have Varun, we have Siddharth from WazirX, we have Aman Sanduja, we have um, we have Siddharth Sogani, and we also have Anoush Bhasin. So we have so many interesting speakers today during the panel discussion. Post the panel discussion, we have a workshop on productionizing end-to-end machine learning solutions, which would be taken by Sparsh. Sparsh is a data scientist associate at ZS Associates. After that, we have again a talk on tokenization and fractional ownership. How how what exactly is tokenomics, how can you use the tokenization concepts, and what exactly fractional ownership is. This would be taken by Rajat from team Quillhash. Now, to answer your queries in terms of the certificates, so as we said, as we have said it, we would be talking about the certificates. You all would be getting on certificates. We would be explaining you how and from where can you get it during the closing ceremony today. So just to summarize this, we have four types of certificates for this particular LETCON series. One is anyone who participates, you get in the participation certificate. Apart from it, we have certificates specific to workshops. So on the first day, we had a blockchain workshop. So you can just take an assessment of it, and you will get the certificate for it. Then we have an augmented reality and virtual reality workshop, which was taken by Ashik yesterday, wherein he explained how you can create Instagram filters. Today we have a machine learning workshop, and you can actually take in a test. The way on how you can take this test and how you can get the certificate would be shared during the closing ceremony. Stay tuned until then, and by just giving very simple assessments, very simple question and answers, you would be able to get these certificates. Now, coming next to it, just a second. Yeah, coming next. So you can subscribe to our Telegram community, and you can just join us, and you'll be receiving all the updates there. The link to it is, you can just go on Telegram and search for Zubi_IO. Zubi_IO, ZUBI_IO. You can just go and search on Telegram and get yourself added to the Telegram community group if you're not yet a part of it. And guys, not last but not the least, this conference has prizes worth INR 50,000. You can earn 50,000 rupees worth of prizes during this conference. So let me just break down about how can you actually earn this. So every session in this conference, by participating in this session, by asking relevant questions, by interacting, you are eligible to get 3,000 rupees every session. So let's say if we have 4 sessions today, so 12,000 can be earned just today out of engaging with the speakers, asking relevant questions, asking innovative questions. So this is one of the way to earn. Apart from that, you can share about LETCON using the hashtag ZubiLetCon. Don't forget to add the hashtag. The hashtag is hashtag ZubiLetCon. You can just use this, and you can share it on social medias like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Don't forget to tag Zubi and the relevant speaker about which the session is. And this can again make you eligible to win 5,000 rupees in cash. So you can actually win 5,000 rupees in cash by just, tweeting about, or by posting about the conference, about what you have learned from this conference, about your setup, taking a screenshot about speaker talking on something, anything. Just, post whatever you feel like on the social media. Use hashtag ZubiLetCon, and we have lots and lots of prizes for you. Apart from that, for workshop assessments, so in the every workshop, since we called it, like, to get the certificates, you would be taking an assessment. So the one who have performed good, the one who are among the top 3 or top 5, so you can also win INR 3,000 for these workshop assessments. So this is again in cash, wherein the leaders of the leaderboard, the rankers one of each workshop, or rankers 1 to 3 of each workshop, would be getting rupees 3,000 in cash. So without wasting in much time, let's get started with the LitCon, and let's enjoy the sessions that we have planned in for you today, and let's continue. So to start with, we have first as Alex, who has joined us. So before having Alex on the team, I'll just take 30 seconds. Meanwhile, Alex and us will be trying to set up a couple of things. Yeah. Hi, Alex. Thank you for joining.
Hi, thanks.
Great. So, guys, now we have Alex. Alex, you can share your screen if you have any, and then I'd be happy to add it to the portal. Guys, so Alex is here. He is CTO and co-founder at Being. He is here to talk about why everyone in the crypto is talking about private DeFi. Isn't that an interesting topic? Since I just mentioned, everyone in the world is now talking about DeFi. So let's hear it all from Alex, and let's understand why everyone is talking about private DeFi. Over to you, Alex. Thank you for joining. I've added your screen, and yep, great.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Romanov. I'm the CTO of Beam project, and thank you so much for having me here at LETCON. The topic of today's talk is why everyone in crypto is talking about confidential DeFi, and there is quite a lot to untangle here: crypto and DeFi, and confidential crypto and confidential DeFi. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the Beam project for a few minutes, and then we will talk about DeFi a lot, and we will go over all the concepts, and we will dive less into the technology, but we will talk about what it is, how it works, what's important to know about it. And then we will talk about the confidential DeFi. And of course, if there is time left at the end, we will have questions if there is such a thing here. As you can see, I have assigned some time for each topic, but the truth is that I have no idea how much time it's going to take, because it's a completely new presentation that I have created specifically for this conference. So I hope it's going to be okay. And, if everything goes well, we will finish early, which is always nice. So let's get started. So I don't need to tell you that crypto is growing like crazy. And by crypto, I mean cryptocurrencies. Whatever parameter you take, whether it's number of users, number of transactions, number of projects, amount of money involved, everything is growing really, really fast. And I also don't need to tell you that crypto is extremely disrupting. And we're not just talking about financial sector, but also technology and cryptography and government and regulation, right? So crypto is a very disrupting technology. But I think that one of the most important things that crypto is disrupting, like the first among equals, is the concept of trust. And what I mean by that is, you probably heard these expressions like, don't trust, verify, or not your keys, not your coins, and things like that. So the idea is that the responsibility and who you trust with your money, it's completely on you. And this was the initial idea of Bitcoin. and then of the most other cryptocurrencies out there, you don't really have to trust anyone. If you don't want to, you own your words, your keys, and you decide how you spend your money, and nobody else is responsible for that. And it has some strange downsides too, because when it's your responsibility, it's going to be sometimes a little bit scary and maybe a little bit uncomfortable, because if you lose your piece of paper with these words, or if you just mistype some fees in the transaction, there is nobody out there to help you. But that's the whole point. You don't have to trust anyone. It's yours and you control it alone. But what about the information about your finances and your coins? Okay, so nobody can spend your coins for you, but who knows about your financial situation, how much coins you have of which kind, what are the transactions that you're making, what are the positions that you're taking, all this stuff, information about your coins, that's something else. And today, when you use Bitcoin or Ethereum or many other cryptocurrencies, this information is actually kind of out there, because you can open a blockchain explorer for these cryptocurrencies, and you can look at the transactions that are going on right now. And you can try to reconstruct the transaction graph and understand who is sending what to whom, and all the amounts are there in the open. And if you're not technical enough, you can just sign to the Twitter of, I don't know, Whale Alert, and you can see what people are doing and where the large amounts of money is going. And if you're a little more technical, you can just try to analyze the transaction graph. And this is not limited to large organizations with vast amounts of resources. You can take an average laptop today and run a 40-line script of Python code, which you don't even write, you just download it, and you can reconstruct large parts of the graph and understand what's going on. So this is where Beam comes in. And in Beam, we believe that you need to be in control of your financial information. You need to decide what you disclose and to whom and when. It should be up to you and not just out there for anyone to grab, right? So this is the idea that Beam has started with, and this is what we have been developing for the last almost 2.5 years. So it's your keys, it's your coins, and it should be also your privacy. We use the word confidentiality instead of privacy, because I think that confidentiality is more appropriate here. Like, it's your confidential information, and it's your choice what to do with it. So that's our premise. And yes, Beam is confidential and scalable cryptocurrency, first and foremost. And recently, we have announced our plans to develop a confidential DeFi platform. And we will talk about that in a few minutes. But we believe that confidentiality does not only apply to which coins you hold or how much money you have or what you do with it, but also to the entire world of DeFi applications that we're going to talk about soon. So this is the Beam fact sheet, and I will show it here so it appears in the slides, but actually you can Google all that in like 15 minutes. It's not really what Beam is. But I would like to spend the next couple of minutes to tell you what Beam really is. And what Beam is a very successful combination of technology, design, and passion. And we'll start with technology. So if you ask around and about the Beam project, so one of our key traits is that we have very fast execution. We have developed our blockchain in 9 months from absolute zero and launched the mainnet in the beginning of 2019, January 3rd, 2019. And during 2019, we had 62 releases, which is basically more than one release per week across all our product platforms, which is mobile wallets, desktop wallets, blockchain explorer, the core technology, and everything else. It's quite a lot. So we do things really fast. Additional trait of Beam is that we develop everything ourselves. We do not fork anyone. We do not clone anyone. We just develop everything ourselves from scratch. And even though these technologies, the name of these technologies may not say much to you, but these is like the list of our achievements. We were the first to deliver Mimblewimble on mainnet, which is the base protocol Beam is based on. And we were also the first to deliver Lelantos Mimblewimble, which is the additional protocol that we have now, and many others. So yes, we do things really fast, and we do everything ourselves, which is important for us. Another thing that Beam is really focused on is design and specifically usability, because crypto technologies were notoriously and are notoriously difficult to use. They're very, very different from what people are used to. And we are trying to do everything to make this as accessible as possible for a wide variety of users. That's why we invest a lot of time and effort in building beautiful wallets for all platforms, whether it's Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android, whatever. You can just download our wallet and start working with Beam immediately. And we do not compromise on user experience. If the feature is not usable enough, we will not deploy it until it is. And it's very important to us. And this is the trend we're going to take with us forward into the additional developments, including DeFi. But the most important thing of all is passion. And passion is all about people. Whether it's our development team or Beam team in general, our community, our ambassadors, our foundation members, everyone is very passionate about the technology that we're working on and the product that we are delivering eventually. And it's very important for us to have this passion, because in this crazy market, crazy space where there are a lot of projects, we are using this passion to really deliver products that we believe in. So that's our motto, and that's what we do. And so you can learn more about Beam if you go to our website or just look for Beam Privacy on Twitter or Telegram. We have a lot of information out there. So that's where I come from, and that's what I do on a daily basis. And now let's talk about DeFi, okay, which is the main topic of our conversation here. So first, let's start with several concepts, so just we speak the same language. When I say crypto, I mean cryptocurrency. And it does not necessarily mean blockchain, because blockchain is just one specific technology to implement this idea of distributed immutable ledger. And we're going to talk about public permissionless networks. There are different types of projects and blockchains out there. Some of them are closed private blockchains. Some of them require permission to join, whether you are a node or a miner. But we're talking about today about networks like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and of course Beam and many others that are completely permissionless, which means that anyone can download the software, which is completely open source, build it on their own machine, and join the network, whether as verifier, a node, a wallet, or a miner. It doesn't matter. There is no permission required, and all the information about how to join this is completely public. You don't need to sign any papers to join this network. So this is our focus today. And when we talk about DeFi, we talk about these type of networks. And of course, Beam and Ethereum and Bitcoin are such type of networks. One thing which is a little bit more advanced is there are actually two types, two basic types of networks out there. The first one is so-called UTXO based, and UTXO stands for unspent transaction output, and that's how Bitcoin works. And your balance in Bitcoin is calculated as the total sum of all the transactions that you have received, but didn't spend yet. This is how Bitcoin works. A different approach, which is manifested by Ethereum, is the account based. Basically, there is a balance which is written explicitly in the blockchain, in the ledger. And it says, like, this account has such and such balance. And then when transactions occur, this balance changes. And these are two different approaches. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because today DeFi is mostly associated with Ethereum, but we will talk about how DeFi is also possible in UTXO-based blockchains and what it means. So it's important to understand this difference. And since we have mentioned trust, trust is actually not a binary concept. It's not like trust or not trust. Trust is a range, it's the spectrum. And on one side, we have centralized trusted entities like your old school bank, for example. And on the other hand, we have decentralized and completely trustless entities like Bitcoin Node, which is you don't have to trust anyone. You can verify everything yourself. However, there are several stops in the middle of this range, which are also important to understand, one of which is M out of N federated. And what it means that instead of trusting one centralized entity, we have several entities, the federation of entities, could be private people or organizations. And the assumption is that these entities do not necessarily collude with one another, and which is why if we take some subset, M out of N of these federation members, we can trust it better than or less than we trust one centralized entity. Additional stop on this spectrum is so-called centralized but trustless services or projects. It means that in type of access, so you access some central point, but the service itself is trustless. You do not really need to trust it because you control all the information, all the keys, but the access to it is central. So if we look at this, we can see that above the line, we see this something related to accessibility, availability of the service, and below the line, we see the amount of trust. So for example, M out of N federated means that we need to access M out of N members, and the trust is in the federation, so several signatures have to sign everything, which is better than just having one single trusted entity. So this is very important because when you take a look at the project, any DeFi project today, you need to put it somewhere on this map and understand what exactly is being trusted there, who you trust and what you trust it with, because it differs between certain different projects. And it's one of the important parameters of any DeFi application. And the process of moving from the left of this axis to right is called trust minimization. So we're trying to minimize the trust as much as possible until we reach the decentralized trustless, which is the absolute best solution. But it's not always possible, as we will see. So trust minimization is the process of improving that. So what is DeFi? It stands for Decentralized Finance, but basically it's just a collection of decentralized and trust minimized financial instruments. In crypto, when you have like basic project, like maybe Bitcoin or Ethereum, and you hold some Bitcoin, let's say you bought one Bitcoin on an exchange. Now what you can do with it, you can basically sell it, or you can hold it or hodl it, as they say. But we probably want to do more things, just like in the regular economy. We want to have additional types of operations, financial operations that we would like to have using these currencies. So that's what DeFi gives us. Additional financial instruments, and we'll see exactly which types of financial instruments we can use with these technologies. So now let's move to the idea of smart contracts. Smart contracts is the very basic high-level concept which answers how exactly we achieve this option of having additional financial instruments which are decentralized and trustless. Smart contract is basically a piece of software which runs on the blockchain, and it encodes all the different conditions and all the different behaviors that we want from this financial instrument that we're trying to represent. Unlike regular contracts, old school basic contracts that you sign with your lawyer, these contracts are immutable in a way, so they have their basic conditions, which is it's visible to everyone, and they're also enforcing these conditions themselves. So you don't really need anyone in the middle. You don't need a lawyer. You don't need your bank. You don't need anyone to use these contracts. All you need is to be able to access the blockchain. And of course, as we will see, it increases the complexity of these smart contracts. But that's the idea which been, let's say, the basis, the foundation of this DeFi concept. And of course, just like in all the other aspects, the smart contracts strive to achieve trust minimization. The minimum, the less trust you need to work with this contract, the better. So each contract has two parts: signing a contract and the settlement of a contract. And on the right here in the picture, you can see an example of ancient contract. I think it's from China, and talk about immutable ledger. This is like actually written in stone. But from the point of view of these two steps, signing a contract is an easy part. We can go out here and just sign a contract about anything in 5 minutes, and that's it. Like I can promise to give you my firstborn son in exchange to something else. But when the time comes to actually settle a contract, this is where we have a problem. And there is a lot very large field of the old school contract creation, like lawyers and judges and all the mechanisms that make sure that the contract is actually honored, right? Because at any time I can just say, oh, I just don't want to honor this contract, I'm going away. And in blockchain projects, in crypto projects, we do not have this third party to rule on the state of the contract, which is why the settlement of the contract on chain is very complicated. It has to take into account a lot of different scenarios. What will happen if this happens, and what will happen if that happens, and what will happen if one of the sides disappears or doesn't honor or doesn't play by the rules. So the settlement of a contract is the key and key contributor to the complexity of this entire field. So what smart contract is like internally? There are two different elements inside the contract. The first is the contract logic, which is basically these rules that we have been talking about manifested as a software, as a program, as an algorithm. And looking at this contract, looking at the description or looking directly at the code, you can understand what exactly this contract expects from you. What are the conditions, which conditions need to be met, etc. But there's also additional aspect, which is called contract governance. It does not always manifest itself directly, but in certain cases, there is a process to modify certain parameters or certain rules within the contract. And this modification is usually done by some additional mechanism on top of the existing contract logic, which uses different, like either maybe it's voting tokens, or maybe it's centralized, and maybe it's completely decentralized, maybe it's federated, but the rules in the contract can change over time. Okay, that could actually happen. So it's very important when you look at the smart contract, when you talk about some specific DeFi application, not only to understand what the logic is when you want to use it for trading or any other purpose, but also how the governance works. Who can influence the parameters of this contract and how it really works? It's very important to pay attention to that as well. So let's take a look how this works on Ethereum, because it's one of the most prominent blockchains that implement these concepts, and it's a go-to, I think, concept for everyone. When you start talking about DeFi or smart contracts, Ethereum is the first thing that comes to mind. So basically, we will start from the bottom up, and you have your blockchain at the bottom. And above that, you have the Ethereum node, which is monitoring and processing this blockchain. And then within the node, you have the Ethereum virtual machine, which is kind of a model computer in a way that is programmed to work with specific language. And this language is called Solidity. And this is the language that most smart contracts on Ethereum are implemented in. So when you are accessing the smart contracts, it's just a program, computer program, written in this Solidity language, which runs on the Ethereum virtual machine. And what is important to understand here is that both the code of this program and the data that it works with are all stored in the blockchain, which is why you can be sure that when this specific contract runs, it was not modified by anyone, because as we know, the blockchain is an immutable ledger. So we can always be sure that once we read this contract and we're executing the contract, this code will not change under our feet. And also all the data is also in the blockchain, and you cannot easily manipulate it. So everything is verified in this context. That's the concept, which is even like in Ethereum, that works exactly like that. But even on different other projects, this is the basic idea of how things work today. Can we have smart contracts on UTXO-based cryptocurrency, like, for example, Bitcoin? Bitcoin does not have virtual machine. It does not have smart contracts in the conventional sense of like implemented in Solidity or any other language. So the answer is yes, we can. They work differently, and I will not go into the details right now, but it's important to understand that's also possible. And if you Google something like scriptless scripts, which is an idea that was presented several years ago by Andrew Poelstra, who is a cryptographer working with Bitcoin a lot, you will see how this could work using some specific types of cryptography. But for our purposes today, it's just important to realize that smart contracts are not limited to Ethereum, and they're not limited to account-based projects like Ethereum. Okay, so let's see an example of smart contract. Like you deposit XETH. If the price of Bitcoin goes up, you get 2 XETH, and if the price of Bitcoin goes down, you lose the entire amount of all the Ethereum you have deposited. And immediately we have this problem, because like what's the price of Bitcoin in the context of Bitcoin blockchain? So as we all know, the price of Bitcoin is always the same. 1 Bitcoin is worth 1 Bitcoin, right? So what are we talking about here? And this is a very big problem for all projects that are based on blockchain technology or crypto technology, is that the only information we can get and the only information we can verify is the information which is inside our system, inside our network. Cryptocurrency is basically a closed system. So in order to talk about price of Bitcoin, let's say in US dollars or in any other external currency, whatever it is, we need to be able to deliver outside information into our network. And the way it works is using oracles. And you probably heard this word mentioned if you are looked a little bit into DeFi or into blockchain in general. Let me just remove my cat here. So how does it work? Like basically, we just take some information, let's say the price of Bitcoin, and we inject it into the system. And it sounds very simple, but the problem is that there is no like single price of Bitcoin. The price can vary among different markets, different countries, and etc. And this is why, in general, there can be no decentralized oracles, because it's always, you have always trust some source of data, or maybe several sources of data combined. And it's important to understand, because oracles are a big deal today, and they're integral part of many different applications. So even though you make a lot of effort to make these oracles very stable and very, foolproof, and so you cannot break in, you cannot actually modify the data that is sent to the blockchain, still it's not exactly decentralized. Even though there are several interesting solutions, how to do stuff without oracles at all, and maybe if we have time, at the end, maybe we'll talk about that. So let's see, now that we have this concept of DeFi and infrastructure and how it works and smart contracts, and we understand oracles, what kind of applications we can actually run using these concepts. So let's start from tokenization. And by the way, this $3 coin, it's a real thing. I just found out. It's in Wikipedia. Yeah, so strange as it looks, there is such a coin, and it's very, very, very rare. So if you find one, don't throw it away. So let's start with tokenized assets. And the idea is that we have some real world asset, let's say a diamond or an apartment, or it can be a share of some company. And then we create the representation of this asset on blockchain, and this is called tokenization. So once we have created the tokenized version of this asset, we can trade it on our cryptocurrency blockchain or inside our network. But eventually, at some point, if you own one of these tokens, you can go to some centralized entity, usually, or federated entity, which hold the actual real-world assets that are represented in our tokens, and you can claim them back, whether it's a diamond or a rare coin or anything else. So that's the process called tokenization of real-world assets. On the other hand, we have what is called synthetic assets. And synthetic assets is just representation of an asset without owning the actual asset. So for example, if I want to trade Facebook stock, but I don't actually own one, I can create a representation of this stock, like in some token, which price is tied to the real world price of the real share of Facebook. But there is no relation. I'm betting on a price change, but I do not actually own any stock of the underlying company. This is called synthetic, and there is a project called Synthetics, which does exactly that. So these are the two types of tokens that we're talking about: the tokenized assets, which relate to the real world, and the synthetic assets. What we can do with all these assets is basically a lot of different types of trading, mostly derivatives such as options, futures, swaps, not in the context of atomic swaps, but in the context of financial swaps like equity swaps or credit default swaps, or like there are many different types. And of course, we can always add leverage, and leverage is always like pouring a lot of gasoline on the fire. It basically makes all the trading much more intensive and much more profitable, or on the other hand, you can lose your money much quicker. But even if you look today at the ecosystem, and you will see a lot of projects that deal with all types of trading, whether it's options, futures, binary options, swaps, any kind of financial trade that you would like to do, there is probably a project out there, and most of them also offer leverage. So, everybody wants to get rich fast, so why wait? And this is where leverage comes into play. Another very interesting concept which got a lot of prominence lately is the idea of liquidity pools. And you will hear things like yield farming and liquidity mining, but basically what they mean is the same thing, in a way that if you have some crypto, and right now it's just sitting there in your wallet or in exchange or whatever, and it does nothing. So what you can do is contribute your crypto that you have to liquidity of some market. And thus, you will be able to generate passive income, because your money will be used in different trades. People will lend it, and they will use it for trading, and they will make profits, inevitably, like at least one of them. So that's how you participate in this game passively, by just lending the crypto that you don't use today to different kinds of liquidity pools. One of the very, very interesting and special examples of synthetic assets are stablecoins. And it's basically synthetic asset which price is tied to a real world currency, such as US dollar, for example. And here too, we have difference between different implementation in terms of trust. Like, for example, USDT, it's basically backed by real dollars that are in the bank somewhere, and you have to trust the organization and that bank that these dollars are actually there. On the other hand, DAI, which is produced by MakerDAO, is a completely algorithmic and smart contract-based implementation, which does not have any real-world collateral behind it. So it works in a completely different way. So it's much less, you need to trust it much less because it's completely on-chain, and there are some nuances and how the governance works, but it's much better than the USDT model. In any case, stable coins, both of them, both types, or like there are also additional examples, they're very important because they kind of tie the crypto economy to the real economy. So if you need to do some kind of real world trades where the other party is expecting eventually to get something priced in dollars, that's where you use these coins, and it's very important. So additional type of DeFi applications is lending. And lending is something Compound does, for example, very successful project. And for me, it was always kind of surprising, because when you lend something when you need it, right? So you don't have something, you need to lend it from someone. But when you use your crypto as a collateral, and then you take crypto, you lend crypto, like why don't you just sell your original collateral and get the money and buy you, I don't know, food or whatever you need? And the answer here is that when you use crypto as collateral and lend another crypto in return, what you basically is doing is not exactly lending. It's more like you take a position where you are long on your collateral and you are short on the coin that you're lending. So it's basically kind of a trade. You want the coin that you lend to go down, because then you will have less to return, and you want the collateral to go up. You basically make this trade on this specific pair of coins that you use. But it's a very large market. There are a lot of applications that do such things. Some of them actually allow you to lend dollars and fiat money. So you can use it, but a lot of them, especially the more algorithmic ones, are basically this variety of directional bets or trading where you don't really get any fiat money in return. Couple of things that we will not talk about because they're important, very important, but it's a little bit out of scope. One is scalability, because when you're talking about financial applications and you take any existing financial system as example, the amount of trades that it needs to handle per second is enormous. It's very, very large. Like Thrift or I don't know, PayPal, they handle tens of thousands of transactions per minute. So it's very large amount of transactions, and modern blockchains natively cannot support this scalability. So we need to find another solutions, and it's important. And even today, you can see that happening on Ethereum, where the fees are suddenly going up because there is a lot of demand for this type of transactions due to the explosion of DeFi applications. Another thing we will not talk about is distributed exchanges. And distributed exchange is the idea that you can trade tokens just like you do on an ordinary exchange, but without having this centralized third party monitoring the order book and creating it and doing all these things. So we will leave that for another time. Okay, so that was the high-level overview of all the important concepts in decentralized finance. So let's see, we have smart contracts, we have oracles, we have all the types of applications that we can create and all the type of trades that we can do. And as I mentioned, without confidentiality, you can see what's going on. So it may be more or less difficult, but like, how does it work? So let's talk about confidentiality first without the DeFi, understand what it means for us, and then apply this concept to DeFi as well. So if you have a transaction that you can clearly see where Alice sends 1 Bitcoin to Bob, okay, that's very simple, and everything is visible. Alice, Bob, 1 Bitcoin, when this happened, you can see everything. You can, of course, encrypt these values. So someone has sent some amount of Bitcoin to somebody else, and this is kind of combination of anonymity and confidentiality in terms of the amount. And in case of Beam, because we are using the Mimblewimble protocol, the information about who is sending to whom, it doesn't even appear on the blockchain. All you see is that there was a transaction in which undisclosed amount of Beam changed hands. That's all you can see in the Beam blockchain. But what about smart contracts? So when Alice sends this same undisclosed amount of funds to a smart contract, does it automatically mean that the contract code is confidential, or the contract data is confidential, or the execution is confidential if it's running on a confidential blockchain? And the answer is no. Because even though all the transactions are confidential, what's going on inside the contract, the data that is being written and the calculations that are being processed, does not necessarily automatically become confidential. It's actually quite a difficult task, which requires a special kind of cryptography, the homomorphic cryptography, to be able to perform mathematical operations with encrypted data. It's not trivial at all. And what about the contract code? Do we want it confidential? Probably no, because we need people to be able to trust in that code, and which is why we need it to be open source, probably reviewed by a lot of independent reviewers a lot of times, because if the contract contains a bug, that's the worst, right? We cannot change it. A lot of people are using it, especially if this bug is kind of rare or difficult to discover and only happens in certain situations. So the code is definitely not confidential. The data could be confidential if we use the correct type of cryptography, but it's very difficult. And the result is also probably needs to be confidential, because after we run the contract and we get some kind of transactions as a result of it, we, of course, want these transactions to not disclose who was the participator and what was the result of this calculation. And this brings and opens a lot of interesting problems to be solved. So confidential DeFi is not just confidential transactions, it's also confidentiality of the data in the contract and the execution. Very interesting and difficult topics that we will need to handle. So what's going on right now in this space? Are there confidential DeFi projects, and like, how do they work? So in the current state, we have 3 kinds of approaches. The first approach is we don't care. And frankly, I find this always a little bit strange because, like, if you go into any classical, hedge fund or financial institution, and you would say, "Hi, could you please show me all your open positions right now?" They would probably say, "No, because it's our proprietary information, and there is a lot of regulation out there. Like trading on inside information is a crime, and you can get arrested for it. It's actually a criminal offense, and it's so strange." But in crypto, most of the information is open in one way or the other, and you can do all kinds of front-running schemes or other things. And you really need to trust a lot of operators in the way that they don't actually trade against you, because once again, there is not enough regulation there. So even though it's a problem, in my opinion, a lot of projects don't actually, don't actually care about this state. Another approach is to create second layer solutions, which means that we take Ethereum, which is not confidential on the Ethereum base layer, and then we create a second layer, usually in smart contracts, which does encrypt the data which is being processed. And there are several very good projects out there that do that. So usually they approach it using zero knowledge proofs, which is very strong and very interesting toolkit in cryptography that allows you to basically operate on encrypted data without revealing what it is and prove certain statements about it. Like, for example, the amount, you can prove that it's positive without revealing it, or negative, or it's within certain range. A lot of things that you can do with the zero knowledge proofs. It's very, very powerful techniques. So there are projects which implement this inside Ethereum contracts and achieve this as the second layer solution. And there is also idea of creating everything ground up, which is what we're trying to do, because we are starting from confidential cryptocurrency, and now we're building additional layers on top of it to be able to provide better privacy. So it's second layer solution is a little bit, I always imagine something like that. Okay, so you have a bicycle or something, but you really want a Bugatti, and you kind of try to build something on top of something which is not exactly built for that. So we went with a different approach here. So let's see what we have done when we have approached this problem of confidentiality and DeFi, right? So that's going to be a very, very high level overview. Of course, there are a lot of nuances and details there, but on a high level, this is what we did or doing. So as I mentioned, we have started with the confidential cryptocurrency, which is, by the way, UTXO based. So it works exactly like Bitcoin in this regard. And then we have created two additional layers. One is called confidential assets, and the other one is called Laserbeam. So confidential assets is the ability to create new types of assets, tokens, or whatever you call them, on top of Beam. And this is already working. It's out there today. You can do it. And the beautiful thing about that is that you can create these assets, and once you have created it, they are identical to Beam in terms of confidentiality and scalability on all the other properties that Beam has. And they're also indistinguishable from one another. So they're completely confidential, not just the amounts, but also the type of the asset is confidential. The second block that we have created is Laserbeam, and Laserbeam is basically works like direct payment channels, like you have in like Lightning Network. Instead of doing everything on chain, you can open a channel, and within this channel, you can do instant transactions with much higher speed. So that partly solves the scalability problem for certain cases. And on top of these two blocks, which are important for our DeFi architecture, we are currently building a new layer, which is the account model-based Beam contract infrastructure. So how is it possible to move from UTXO-based architecture to account-based? This is one of the things that we're developing right now. It's a very interesting trick, which is related to the structure of the Mimble-Wimble protocol, which is magical and never stops surprising us. And once we do that, we basically get a new layer inside our node, which can act as an account model. So you have these variables, which can be assigned certain values, and you can work with them. And then using this infrastructure, we create the contract blocks, which are not just a piece of software that anyone can write and deploy like on Ethereum. these are more constrained blocks of software with specific purpose. So it's like Legos, like you can take several different types of them and combine them into a structure and then use these contracts to implement applications. For example, liquidity pool can be such building block and it can be parameterized, right? So you do not have to write the entire software yourself, like in Ethereum. You use pre-existing blocks, and then you manipulate these blocks using Beam script, which is kind of domain-specific language that is tailored for financial applications and gives you the ability of create different workflows and different algorithms and implement different applications. And on top of that, you have the API so that anyone who wants to develop an application can access this entire stack and create an application which works in either centralized, decentralized, centralized but trustless. There are a lot of different modes how it can work. And this is the difference from how we see this architecture and in comparison to Ethereum, for example. So this is all great, but there are two very important problems here. The first problem is, okay, so we have built all this stuff, and now what? Do we just expect people to throw everything away and come and use Beam DeFi architecture instead of what they're using today? And the answer is no, not exactly. So what we will need to do, this is, by the way, the progress, like everything below this line is what already running. So what we need to do here is to create an ability to bridge our chain to Ethereum, which means that it should be possible to move assets and value from Ethereum to Beam and back again. And the way it works is using this concept of bridging, when you can lock some amount of a specific token, let's say DAI on Ethereum, and then in return get a representation of that token on Beam, say BDAI. And then you can trade it confidentially. And then at some point, if you want to, you can move it back to Ethereum and sell it there or do whatever you want. And this is something that is very difficult to achieve, especially in a decentralized way. And this is one of the biggest challenges for us in the coming year, but we are fairly optimistic about that. We think we have an idea how to do it. So that's the first major issue we need to solve. The second issue is that what happens if you want to change something, to add something? Like, what do you do? Do you add all the functionality inside your nodes and just fork all the time? And the answer is no. We could use the concept of sidechains. And the idea is that if there is some functionality that we want to use, but we do not want it to be a part of our mainnet, we can create a sidechain, which is also basically similar to Beam, Mimblewimble and everything, but with some additional different modules. Maybe it's additional or different consensus. Maybe there are some contracts that we want to test out. And just like with the bridge concept, you can easily move value from the main chain to the side chain, trade it there, and then move it back again. And if this process is seamless and simple enough, this will be a very interesting approach to kind of expanding these capabilities. Okay. So let's see what we've talked about and how much time we have left. We learned about Beam and what we are, what we do. We talked about DeFi infrastructure and applications and what are the problems that you need to be solved. And towards the end, we talked about the combination of confidentiality, yes, and how it applies to DeFi and what Beam is doing in this regard. Okay, so do we have any more time or are we out of it? How much more time we have?
Yeah, Alex, we can take in questions. We are short in time.
Yes, of course.
Sure. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Alex, for joining in. And quickly for the questions. So we have a question from Rutvik Jaksania, who asks, what about the Bitcoin 2020 Twitter scam? What if this happened to people? Can it be solved using private DeFi?
Oh, can you repeat that? The Bitcoin private DeFi?
Yep, sure. So Rutvik is asking about what was about the Bitcoin 2020 Twitter scam, the recent scam wherein like a lot of high-profile Twitter accounts were being hacked and hackers posted in some of the Bitcoin addresses. Are you aware of that?
I don't hear you too well. You're very, very, very it interrupted.
Better now?
Can you write it maybe? Or paste it here?
Sure. Is it better now?
Yes, much better now.
Great. Sorry. Yeah. So, there's a question from Rutvik about what was the Bitcoin 2020 Twitter scam? Can this be solved using private DeFi?
What was the Bitcoin?
2020 Twitter scam, the scam that happened on Twitter.
Well, I'm not sure exactly. Twitter
Sure.
scam.
It was basically a hack.
Yeah, well, you mean when the Twitter itself was hacked?
Yes, a lot of high-profile cases were hacked, and like the hackers posted in the Bitcoin addresses to transfer.
Yeah,
And
I understand. Yeah, so it's the confidential DeFi will not actually solve these kinds of problems. The confidential DeFi will solve a problem of anyone being able to see what you're doing. So if somebody tweets that you need to deposit 1 Bitcoin somewhere and then you will get 2 in 15 minutes, that's much more difficult to solve. That's from the different domain of fraud detection or whatever it can be. But I think that one of the things that are happening right now is that a lot of DeFi applications, whether it's, I don't know, Uniswap or Compound, it's not specific examples, just, the people are using them without really diving in and, reading into how this works on a deeper level. And I think it's a mistake. I think you should make every effort to research that before you actually use this kind of application, especially if you trust it with large amounts of your own money, just not just playing with it. Because there are a lot of nuances in how these things are implemented. That's what I think for sure. So regardless whether it's a scam or somebody tells you to do something, before you actually deposit the money, whether it's Bitcoin or not, you should check where it's actually going and what they can do with it.
absolutely, very well said. The next question that we have is from Swaruba Karthik, wherein he basically asks about where we have seen some of the media's been publishing about cryptocurrency has been banned in India back in 2018 2019. The reason for that was international terror funds. This is what the media publications stated. So is there any way wherein the governments can actually track these cryptocurrencies, can actually track how much a person is holding on?
Yeah, it's a good question that we are asked a lot, being confidential cryptocurrency. And the answer to this is that there are like 3 levels of the answer. The first level is that right now, so Beam is, market cap is, I don't know, 30 million, 25 million. I didn't actually check, but it's less than probably the smallest arms or narcotics deal in the world. It's just not enough money. But even if it was enough money, like, can government track it? The answer is no. The government cannot track it. But if I am an honest player and I'm a business or I'm a person and I do want to disclose the information to the government, this is one of the things that Beam actually is good at. So it's called opt-in auditability. You can show what you want to show, but nobody can force you or just see what you're doing. So
Great, okay.
you can be as auditable as a regular business, but it's up to you. It's your decision.
Got it. Thanks, Alex. I think we are short in time, and then there are a lot many other questions, but we'll definitely email it to you for your answers to them, and we'll be sharing back with the community members and the viewers. So thank you, Alex, for joining in. It was great listening to you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. 1 second, I have one last slide to show. It's the thank you slide. Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
Thanks.
So guys, moving ahead now, we have a very interesting panel discussion, and we'll just start that in next 30 seconds. Yeah. So now we have a lot of interesting speakers with us who have joined in from different parts of the country and the world. So we have Aman Sanduja, co-founder Zubi, with us. We have Namish Sangvi from CoinCrunch. He's the founder at CoinCrunch. We have Varun Sethi, founder of Blockchain Lawyer. We have Anaush Bhasan and Siddharth Sogani. Siddharth is a founder at Kribako Global, and Anaush represents various organizations, and he is currently with us. We are waiting for another speaker, Siddharth from Wazirex, so he would be joining us soon. Am I audible?
Yeah,
Yes, you are.
we can hear you.
Great, thanks. So thank you guys for joining in, and the panel discussion is quite very interesting today, wherein we are discussing about India's Atmanirbhar crypto mission. India's Atmanirbhar crypto mission, and there has been a lot of times wherein we have seen, we have heard that cryptocurrency is being banned in India. It's not regulated. There are a lot of things around it. So now we have experts from the cryptocurrency domain who are here to help us understand what exactly is the fact behind this cryptocurrency ban. What were the situations before the regulation, and what are the situations after after it's been regulated. So we have Siddharth who will be moderating this entire panel discussion, and we have speakers over with us. So Siddharth, over to you. Please, you know, go ahead and moderate this panel. Thank you.
Sorry,
Sure.
just a
Thank you
quick
so much,
check. Puneet,
Puneet.
can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
Aman, we can't see you.
We can't see.
Aman, we can't see you.
You can't see me, right?
No.
Okay, just a second. I'll be back.
Yes, you are.
Meanwhile, Puneet, good job with the conference. It's going well. I was in the session earlier as well.
Great, thanks, Namish. We are already live, and we have lots of audiences who are interacting with us. You can check these comments in the comment section on your portal. I think
Yeah,
there's lag with my internet, so I'm just turning my video off for it to be better.
okay.
So, meanwhile, speakers, can we have your introductions? Namish to start with.
Sure. So as it says against my name, I run something called as coincrunch.in. It's a cryptocurrency and blockchain news portal. We focus on India's cryptocurrency and blockchain news mostly, or the world news that affects Indians or Indian citizens the most. Yeah, all the people here, I'm so honored to be on this panel. So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks, Namish, for a quick introduction. Siddharth, can we have yours?
Yeah. Thanks, Puneet. I'm heading Kribako Global. It's a research, rating, and an intelligence company focused on blockchain and cryptocurrencies. We do research, intelligence, due diligence, and have one of the largest comprehensive research database, helping governments, regulators in making regulations, frameworks, and we are just trying our level best to help the government here as well for the regulatory framework.
Great, amazing. And Varun, you're next.
Varun, can you hear
Varun,
us?
yes.
I think there's a lag on Varun's side.
Yes, maybe
I think
Varun,
his
you
mic.
can turn your video off.
Yeah, he's speaking, but we can't hear him.
Varun, sorry, we cannot hear you. Moving ahead, we'll come back to you, Varun. Meanwhile, you can try to fix it. Anoush, can we have your introduction, please?
Puneet, thanks for having me. Hi, guys. My name is Anush Bhasin. I am the founder of Quagmire Consulting. I am a chartered accountant by profession, and I've been working on asset structuring and tax and regulatory advisory on crypto transactions. I've been helping out people in India.
Thank you, Puneet.
With,
First of all, feeling very privileged to be part of the panel with.
okay, Varun's going ahead.
Yes, I can.
Oh, I think there's a lag.
Huge lag.
Yeah.
I'm a more audible.
Varun,
I'm
can you
more
hear
audible
us?
Varun, are we audible? Sorry, Anush, you can just go ahead. I'll just mute Varun for a couple of seconds and then we can get back to him.
Okay, thanks, Puneet. Yeah, as I was saying, I'm a chartered accountant. I've been working on transaction structuring and tax and regulatory work in India as well as other countries. There's a lot we've done with investors, with traders, with miners, with
Siddharth,
crypto
can you
projects,
see me?
crypto exchanges.
Hello?
Hey, Aman, we can see you. And apart from that, also worked with a couple of regulators, trying to advise them on how crypto transactions can be regulated, how regulations can be implemented. So yeah, well, I'm just trying it all at the moment to ensure that regulators are friendly, regulators are open to listening to us, and so that to some extent we can bring positive regulations and positive environment in India so that crypto can prosper.
Amazing. Thanks, Anush. Aman, can we have your quick introduction? I think we missed you for initial few minutes, but glad to see you back. Can we have your quick introduction? You're on mute, Aman.
Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, all good.
Okay, great. So thank you so much. It has been a very interesting panel. Of course, initially I was supposed to moderate, but no better than Siddharth could take a lead on this panel. So my background is I got into this crypto space early in 2013 when the spike was happening in the Bitcoin. And I started reading more about it. I was already involved with stock market trading and all in 2010, 11. So this is my introduction has happened to this cryptocurrency and blockchain. And thereafter, I started reading about white paper as the Ethereum white paper was launched, more blog posts, more Medium articles, and the action started more on Twitter. I started my first blockchain company in 2017. We did about $1 million in revenue for 3 people team. We built about 25, 27 people. Built products in the area of identity, document, and payments. And after meeting Puneet, I think we have realized that there is a gap in the market because in India, about 15 lakh engineers graduate every year, and close to 85% of them are unemployable. They do not really have the right skill set to work in the industry in terms of emerging technology. We're bridging the gap. So I am a co-founder with Zubi along with the team and helping bridge the gap between the industry and academia by providing the right set of emerging technology skill set early in the college life so that a person can learn basis of strength and weakness. That's what we are doing, and that's a quick background about myself.
Thanks, Aman. I think we have just got an update from Siddharth from Wazirex. Siddharth won't be able to join us as he's not well. We wish him a speedy recovery. And meanwhile, Varun is joining. He's facing some issues. So, Siddharth, I request you to continue for this panel now, and then we'll have Varun soon with us.
Sure. Thank you so much, Puneet. I hope you guys can hear me and see me well. Thank you so much for organizing this webinar, and thanks
Hello, Ankur, how are you?
LETCON and Zubi for doing it, and Blockon for sponsoring the event. The topic today is about Atmanirbhar crypto, a mission in India where we are trying to figure out solutions to self-sustain the ecosystem. I'm here to ask all the panelists a few questions about the regulations. I'll start with Varun, and Varun is not here, so I would I think he just joined, but it's open to all. But Aman, Anush, Varun, feel free to answer. In the current scenarios, a lot of companies are going out of India to incorporate themselves. They don't have clear regulations to start a crypto company in India. If you want to start a company with crypto private limited, the word crypto is not allowed in the MCA. They're rejected. There are a lot of hurdles for starting companies in India, and they are getting incorporated outside India in countries like Singapore, Malta, and they are getting funded. There is a lot of money coming into those companies. Um, where do you think India is right now, and how can we get those companies back here and get the cash flow?
Siddharth, if I may take the lead on this one. So, as you mentioned, companies are incorporating outside India, and we're sort of losing out on one aspect is the revenue that the government makes when companies set up here and the influx of capital for investments. But I believe that situation has changed to some extent since the Supreme Court ruling back in March 2020. And the good thing has been that not only local companies want to incorporate and start getting work off the ground now in India, even foreign players are now looking at India as a very, very potentially lucrative market. And we have in personal in professional capacity have seen many projects trying to incorporate in India. The main difference being that tech-oriented projects have absolutely no issue incorporating here and starting out. We usually are facing even lesser, I would say, reluctance on behalf of the government, because since the Supreme Court ruling, we have like a 187-page document to show them that it's not illegal. However, any company which is dealing in tokens, whether it's a coin or it's a token, whatever they want to call it, that sort of is still in the gray area, because of which those companies are definitely incorporating outside. There is a lot of value, there is a lot of money that is at stake if you set up a token in India. There are crowdfunding restrictions. So tech-oriented projects are happily setting up. It's just the token-related ones which are still steering clear of the Indian government.
That's great. What do you think, Aman, about this?
So my take is, see, the interest in crypto cycle has started with the price action. The interest got more developed with the ICOs coming. But over a period of time, if you look at startups and projects are also getting established. Of course, the gray area is still there in terms of the cryptocurrency involvement. There are few companies which we are dealing in capacity at Zubi. These are the companies that are also registered offshore. And these are the companies because they are sort of dealing in cryptocurrencies. But if you talk from a perspective of technology, I think that's the area where a lot of people have started venturing into with new ideas and new projects. But in terms of the regulation, there is still a big question. And I sometimes do not really have an answer in confidence, because every day is a new day in crypto, and you don't know what's happening with the ministers as well, because in terms of their mood swings, they can come up with any kind of what you call red flags, which are not even relevant, considering I and Anush, along with Varun, keep on having a discussion. So I think what we are doing at Zubi in terms of bridging the gap between academia and the industry, there has to be someone who can actually bridge the gap between the regulators and the adopters. I think there is still a lot of a white space which is there in the market. The regulators think from a perspective of the legalization without actually understanding the in-depth or the what you call the mechanisms of technology. Whereas the adopters are looking at the regulators as what you call sort of people who are not friendly with us, and we end up having a certain kind of friction develop over a period of time. So there has to be some sort of a bridge so that we can understand, we can sit across the table. I think Anush, Varun, and people like you are trying your best, and we in terms of academia, and Nemish in terms of the media. So it is definitely a white space, but I think it will be filled very soon once we all pillars start joining in hands, and the regulation comes more in benefit for all of us. See, I spoke to one of the government officials, just sharing an anecdote over here. He said India is a country which runs on cash economy, correct? If India as a country runs on cash economy, there are a lot of OTC players in crypto as well. If you add cash on top of a cash, then we are already a 6% inflation rate in India. Correct? So then you need to do demonetization possibly after every 6 quarters, 8 quarters again and again. Because you don't know how a person is dealing into the cryptocurrencies, how he has got in the cash. And then from there, you don't really have a track. Because if you're buying from an OTC desk, you're not having a KYC work. So there is a fair point from a regulator side, and also most of the companies which are coming up in the market are sort of putting across a layer wherein people can enter into the ecosystem through a defined KYC mechanism, and thereafter you can deal into the projects and deal into the crypto actions. But at this point in time, I think I would love to hear from Anush, Varun, and Nemish on this point on what can happen with crypto regulation, because March we have heard something else, and then lately 2-3 weeks back there is another heads up from the government, but we don't really see any official tweet or anything from the finance ministry or anything. So is it really am I believing the media, or media trying to play on the sidelines and trying to actually pull down the adopters or users which are there? So that's my concern still there in this ecosystem of crypto.
Sure, thank you so much. Another question around those lines is the current user base in India has crossed around 7 million already, and it could be more. I don't have the recent data, but India is sitting on an opportunity of a $12.9 billion market. I believe it has gone up by about 30%, looking at the traction which Bitcoin has, and after the Supreme Court's regulation judgment, so the market size has increased. Now, if regulations come in a couple of months ahead, what do you see? Where are we heading? Do you think that India has enough potential to create so many job opportunities and get in a lot of new companies in this ecosystem? Nemish, what do you think about
See, Siddharth,
the employment
my
opportunities?
apologies. I'll just add a point
Yeah,
since you mentioned about academia before that. See, this is the race which
sure.
we will anyways win, even if we have the regulators or not. Correct? Because in this, since we are democratizing the space, we are anyways gonna have more jobs in terms of technology. We anyways gonna have more adoption. And when you said that we are sitting on a 7 million crypto trader base, I think it will be more because we don't really have a count of OTC traders. So there are, I mean, in a country like India, where you have a third largest population, 1.35 billion, where 2% people invest in stock market. I think when the crypto regulation come in, when the grounds will become more fertile, I think we'll overcome the stock market investment numbers and stock market trader numbers, along with the mutual funds and all. Because crypto is very dear to the millennials, considering the concept of technology. Of course, the boomers will still take time to understand. Gen Z is keeping it very close around the heart and making it success because of the properties of a technology which cryptocurrency and blockchain has to offer, along with the democratization. And considering an experience, user experience, we might getting into the financial products which are more towards technology savvy, but I think the user experience with the financial industry is degrading over a period of time. So I think this race we anyways will win. We might have to have more laps. We might have to have more more of a running. But I think this race, all the people who are sort of a catalyst will definitely be proud of it. So yes, Nemish, sorry.
Yeah, no worries, Aman. I completely agree with you. Siddharth, I don't know where you get the number of 7 million. In my opinion, the active users are much less. But yeah, as Aman said, that OTC traders are a lot of them, and we can't really account for all of them. There are a few comments here as well, which sort of is still asking whether Bitcoin remittance work and whether it is safe to trade Bitcoin in India. So this gives us the understanding that the space is not really understood by a lot of people, right? And what happens with regulations is that when you have regulations, whether it's good or bad, mainstream media sort of picks up on that and then writes articles. And those who are keen on understanding the news sort of understands what is happening in the space, right? So for now, what we are seeing is this negative news coming from the media because they don't have the complete picture, or they hear some whispers from within the the houses of the parliament or the ministers or somewhere. And we, as people who believe in the technology, do not have that ability or the reach that the mainstream media has to get the right message out, right? So I think that whether the regulations coming couple of months down the line, whatever they are, I completely agree with Aman that it will not hamper the growth. It will not hamper the job opportunity, because this is democratizing the work or the academia or the money or whatever it is, right? It's just that we will have more secrecy when it comes to trading and working with cryptocurrencies or working on projects that work with cryptocurrencies, rather than being able to openly discuss it and openly work with it. So I don't think that any ban or any negative regulations is going to stop these millennials or Gen Zs who are into technology from getting into it, right? So I believe that if somebody is listening, my message would be that rather than focusing on the negative, get someone from this generation to talk to you and understand what they need, and then regulate it based on that. So the jobs are not going to go away whether there are positive or negative regulations, right? People will just find opportunity. People will, like Anush is going to help people set up companies in the foreign countries, and then they'll be working as freelancers in India. So that's not going to go away anytime.
Absolutely. I think that's the next gig economy which we will see for sure, Neville. So just to share other stats. Yes, please, go ahead.
Aman, if I may add a point about job opportunities, because I've been working in this space, I've helped a few people in my ecosystem find jobs. And the good thing is, most of the companies here, they actually follow the distributed system. There is no headquarters. They're all remote. They work from whichever place or whichever city they are in the world. And what entitles, what sort of gives us that opportunity to work with any company in the world. It's not like an Indian company is going to be hiring Indian employees. If you are well educated and you have the right talent, you can get employed by anybody all over the world. That gives you access to so many different personalities, so many different people coming from different walks of life. You get global great payment. You're entitled to so much more exposure than what you would be if you're just working in India. So the essence of the distributed system is visible in the organizations that are working in this ecosystem, and I think that's absolutely wonderful and entitles so many people to so many different opportunities rather than just looking at India as a geography.
Yeah. You could really be like, I see a future where you could
Yep.
be, Siddharth, you could be just sitting with someone next to them, and they would be like a millionaire working with a crypto company, and you would not know their identity, right? And this is the ability that crypto or blockchain gives, secret identity, privacy, and anonymity. And that is what is going to stay there, right? Whether government regulates it positively or negatively. And that's the thing.
Nemish is so down to earth. He is supporting Bitcoin by wearing a saffron color, and also the present government as well. So I don't know where are we landing after this.
I'm having a Bitcoiner couple.
Interesting. So I was just adding one more point, Siddharth. In Delhi NCR, there are about 9,000 technology companies. And I'm not saying these technology companies are the ones who are doing services, website development. These are the ones who are working on products and are looking to switch into the emerging technology. A recent survey by our Ministry of IT, most of them are either working with emerging technologies or looking to adopt emerging technologies. When I talk about emerging technologies, you have 5 technologies in front of you at this point in time. Start with blockchain, AI, cybersecurity, then you have cloud computing and game development, along with IoT as well, AR, VR, and also policy. 5-6 technologies. And in any ways, if you try and get into any technology space, the beauty of this technology is it integrates with the other technology. So suppose with IoT, supporting a blockchain as a layer, it adds a layer on trust. Correct? So if not directly the jobs on artificial intelligence, you would definitely have the indirect jobs on the specific domains of emerging technologies. The jobs will definitely pick up. The market growth is bound to touch the skies for sure. And I think this dip was very much required in terms of both the actual realization in terms of what would happen with the present skill set which I have, and what skills I need to learn in order to actually run and win this game. So I think there's a long way to go. So yes, over to you.
All right. So another question is about the regulatory sandbox, which we don't have for crypto at the moment. Countries have different regulations. Like a company like Singapore, which is a very tiny country, they can implement regulations very fast. But a country like India, where there are so many states and so many different departments like RBI, SEBI, FEMA, and money laundering acts and coinage acts and currency acts. It's really complicated. In such a scenario, a regulatory sandbox is really important. What is stopping to create a regulatory sandbox focused on the crypto? Anush, can you just start over here?
Thanks. So that's a great question. Honestly, we don't know the answer to that. What's stopping the Indian government? I think the most likely answer is that they are trying to get it right the first time, which is next to impossible. None of the countries up until now have got cryptocurrency regulations right the first time round, right? All countries are still observing how that first set of regulations is implemented. They're observing what kind of changes or what kind of loopholes have companies found, and then they're adapting, they're improvising, and that's what India needs to do as well. So a regulatory sandbox is precisely the correct technique to figure out in a closed circuit environment how companies function, and then how they can figure out okay, if this is an issue, let's plug it by introducing an amendment. That's how the budgets work every year, right? If the government tried to implement all tax laws in year one, it wouldn't have been possible to do that. So every year they bring about amendments, every year they bring about changes, which helps them regulate the economy in a much better manner, and also keep in line with recent regulations and innovations. Countries like Estonia, Malta, Singapore, and UAE, they've all been changing regulations, and that's what makes you pro innovation. That's what allows even newer projects and new companies to trust the government that, okay, this government is looking to foster growth, to foster innovation, and we'll set up within the regulatory sandbox, and we'll see how it goes. So at least you have the opportunity of innovating. That's what's important. And if the government tries to get it right the first time, I think we're still a very, very long way to go.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to discuss a little about the draft bill, which was done by Mr. Garg. We had a webinar with him a few weeks ago where he showed concerns about crypto being a currency, and he came out with such a tyrannical draft bill because he wanted to protect the investors, and so that they don't fall victims to scams and stuff like that. What are the current solutions we have to overcome compliances and track and trace the money laundering or the transactions movement? So what would a new emerging company in this ecosystem should keep in mind? Anush, and I mean, it's open to all, but I'll start with Anush.
Sure. So the solution to track funds and to track addresses on the blockchain is complicated. It's something that a lot of the emerging crypto companies cannot build up or implement by themselves.
Not exactly solutions. Sorry to interrupt. Not exactly solutions, but how do a government treat it? If a regulator wants to address this problem, what framework would they adhere to?
Well, Siddharth, there is no correct framework which has been implemented up until now. But as an example, I'd like to share the instance of the U.S. government. They have tied up with multiple analysis agencies like Chainalysis. There is Crystal, and there is Elliptic also. All of these companies are specialists in tracking funds, in tracking blockchain addresses, and figuring out what kind of laundering is going on, figuring out whether an address is coming from a sanctioned country, whether an address is coming from a sort of a terrorism financing source. So the government will have to work with companies. The good thing is that these companies exist, right? When somebody was trying to launder money, another person was trying to innovate on how to track this on the blockchain ecosystem as well. So given that the intentions are right, I know these companies are expensive to work with, so I feel the government has the right resources to work with them initially rather than smaller companies. But there is definitely a solution to these things. It's just that the government needs to have open ears, open eyes when they're talking to everybody, and we can hook them up with the solutions if required.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think Aman is frozen. Is Aman frozen? I want to just
Yes, he is.
add that. Siddharth, I just want to add that research companies like yourself are also able to do these things for the government, right? To trace transactions to whatever extent that you can. My understanding is that the current regulations, whatever we have, sort of cover all the issues that the government or the ministers are claiming to have with cryptocurrencies, right? We have a law against money laundering. We have a law against, multi-level or marketing schemes or network marketing schemes, trying to, like, Ponzi schemes. We have different laws. It's just that they need to bring in the resources to implement this more strictly in this crypto environment. Like, I could sit here and name 10 companies that are running Ponzi schemes, or whether they're running or not, I don't know, but I could name 10 companies that ran it, right? If only one inspector is listening to me and he or she just puts the resources to find them and shuts them down, it is going to sort of increase the vigilance and discourage other people from starting or doing the same thing. Also, putting out ads that can
Sure.
essentially show this, right, that these kind of schemes work and this kind of things is legit and these are not. This can increase education in people and they will refrain from it. I think this is what is needed from the government side, more than track. Look, if you find a way to track funds, the miscreants are going to find another way to move funds without being tracked. Okay, that's a cat and mouse chase. Like, you cannot stop it, right? But if you are going to try and stop the entire industry, thinking that it's going to lead to something not good in the future, people are going to definitely use that to do not good stuff, right? So rather than letting it go, embrace it and then work with what the current laws are while you have it, and then bring other laws that can sort of complement the existing laws and make the regulations stricter for those who want to scam people or sort of use it for the illegal activities that the government claims to have.
Sure. Thank you so much for your
Siddharth, one
inputs,
last
Nimish.
point.
Yeah, go ahead.
If the government plans to ban it, as we said, it's not going to make much of an impact because in the blockchain ecosystem, everybody is connected to everybody. But this technology or cryptocurrencies take it one notch above the cash system, and the cash ecosystem in India has also not been able to be controlled, right? So the point that the government is banning it, they're putting themselves 10 steps behind the fact that they could have some oversight and some monitoring systems in place to figure out how these transactions are happening. I think ban is probably the worst option. The Russian government also tried to ban it when they introduced the first bill, but after 3 different amendments, they have actually ended up regulating it as property, and that's what's happening with most governments. They intend to ban it. That's when the first time they start understanding how this ecosystem works, and then they realize that ban is probably the last option that they should be looking at, and then we slowly and steadily move towards some sort of regulation. So even if the government is thinking about a ban, I feel to some extent, if they're giving us the attention, if they're planning to understand how this ecosystem works, we will get there. It might put us 2 years, 3 years behind other countries, but eventually, I think this is not a disruption, and this is not an innovation that any country can miss out on.
Yeah, I agree.
Sure. I'm just trying to do an experiment here. I'm running this. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So I would request the audience to go on menti.com. It's menti.com and enter this session code 7845603 and answer us that would you buy crypto today or wait for the regulations before getting in? The first option is yes, I will buy before the regulations. The second is no, I will wait for the regulations before even trying it. And the third one, which I just voted, is I won't care and I can't miss the opportunity. So as we proceed ahead, would request the audience here we get our first vote. They will buy before the regulations. Also, while going ahead, I'll suggest to take few questions from the audience. One of the audience asked that what is the current status of Bitcoin in India? Can they buy or they can't? Nemish, would you like to throw some light on this?
Yeah. All right. So, guys, right now, Bitcoin you can buy, you can sell, you can hold. There is no regulation that is stopping you from doing that. Okay. So yeah, it's completely legal because it is not explicitly illegal. That's the case we are going with, and so you can trade cryptocurrencies, and even if the government decides to ban it tomorrow, and they go exactly with the ban bill that they have, in the bill as well they say that you will get 3 months to settle your cryptocurrencies, whatever you have. So don't worry, like just go ahead and buy or sell cryptocurrencies when you want, how you want, how many you want. Just go through legit sources. Don't try to fall for things that are too good to be true. So buy cryptocurrencies which are not really advertising so much. So those are the ones that are legit.
No, but I think I would like to add
That's
over
great.
here, before you actually
Yeah.
go and buy cryptocurrencies, I think you should
Yeah.
spend some money in understanding about it. You should not just get to this bandwagon just because the DeFi coins are giving you 25x returns. There are some coins which are giving you 50x return. Bitcoin has moved from 9,000 something to 11,000. The analysts are saying there is a support, there is a resistance. Of course, they would say because they wanted to actually eaten up your money which you will invest. If I'm being an investor, I used to manage a portfolio. I used to put across posts because you should buy at that point in time so that I can sell. Correct? So I think before you actually get into this space, you should understand the mechanics of the cryptocurrency. You should understand even the properties. What is it that the price is moving? Is it just because there is a hype? Because every currency or every commodity has a price action cycle. If it is going up, it has to bound to come down for sure. It is not that it will always keep on ticking up, up, up. It is like a sine wave, correct? So you have a hump, you have a dump as well. So you need to understand the mechanics. So once you have understood the mechanics, I think it will be comparatively easier. So I think this is what we at Zubi are doing. We have partnered with WazirX, where we would be offering cryptocurrency education to most of the students, college students. And the best part is, after completing the courses, they would get some rewards in terms of cryptocurrencies, which they can actually do a hands-on on the exchange. So the practical aspects is very, very important, Siddharth, before you actually just make your decision and sort of shell some of the money to get into this space.
Sure, but I mean, the
Siddharth,
Information
sorry,
Technology
can I
Act
add one
came in
point?
the. Yeah, I'll just
Sorry, just very
say
interesting.
that the information technology. Sorry, Anush. There's a gap. You can add on once I complete. What I wanted to add, Aman, that the IT Act came very late in the early 90s when the internet era was the industry was booming. A lot of developers from India went to US and other countries, and they started working there. Now they are US citizens, and they've made their fortunes. India is now, I think, witnessing something similar, and if we wait for the regulations to come in, we probably would miss the opportunity. I mean, I'm just seeing at the poll results right now. I'm sure you guys can see it my screen as well. About 19 people out of 35, they've said that they will wait for regulations before even trying it. I don't want India to miss the opportunity the second time. It's another opportunity given to us. Over to you. What do you guys think about it? And Anush, you can add on your previous point as
So
well.
let me just add one point before you, Anush, you wanted to open up, or should I go ahead and add one point and then I can hand over to you?
Aman, I wanted to add to your previous point
Right.
about understanding crypto and basically learning about it before you invest in money, in any money into it. I think before we understand crypto, we should understand how money works. That is something that's not taught in the school.
Correct.
That's not taught in college. It's not taught in MBA or any degree. I'm a complete commerce guy. I did commerce in school, graduation, CA, everything I've done. I had no idea how INR works. So basically, understand what backs the rupee. The rupee is what you slog every day to earn. You deposit it in your banks, and basically that's your net worth. Understand what backs it and what backs the asset that backs the rupee, and try and figure out why, from a value perspective, cryptocurrencies are so important. Obviously, the volatility and the price action is very tempting, and that's where you can make the quick buck. But once you understand the economics of your INR and your US dollar, the global reserve currency, it'll open your eyes to a completely different world, a world which I don't think any of us have been able to come back from since we've understood the basics.
Absolutely. I think it's a bang on point, Anush. The financial literacy plays an important role. I think before going to the Information Technology Act, Siddharth, I think it has to be a part of the national education policy, which most of us try and consider from a perspective of that it has to be an introduction of technology, but it has to have an amalgamation of technology along with financial literacy. If I would have get to know about investment, mutual funds, stock market, how I can actually take care of the money which my relatives are giving by going to their places, I would have been a better money manager rather than just a what you call a technologist. So once you introduce all these subjects, so tell me, most of the students are there on the what you call on our YouTube live, and most of them have voted that they will wait for the regulation. What if IITs, what if NIITs, what if IIMs of the world, or most of the prestigious colleges of India start teaching you about cryptocurrencies, start teaching you about the
Correct.
financial literacy? What if a 7th, 8th grade student gets to know about how actually money works, which Anush has rightly pointed out? Correct? So we have been told why barter failed. We have not been told why dollar succeeded. Once we get to know why dollar actually succeeded, then we would understand the crux of this mechanism. And I think there would be no way out but to knock out the door of either cryptocurrencies or virtual currencies, or better way out. So there is a gap of financial literacy along with awareness education. I think it's not just about the regulators, Information Technology Act. Most of us have not even read the end-to-end Information Technology Act, I'm sure, apart from Anush or Varun Sabhu. Right? I would only get to read what's in for me. Sorry.
Yeah, Siddharth, if you run a poll right now, asking people what do they think the INR is backed by, and 3 options: gold, forex, and nothing. I'm telling you that we are going to be surprised by the answers. Okay, so because I was like growing up, I was told that RBI has gold, and all of our currency is actually backed by gold. And up until demonetization, I did not know that government can just print money, right? Just like that, without keeping anything as a collateral. And if we try to do it, we'll be in jail, of course. So that's the thing, right? When people learn about money, when people learn about technology, when people learn about economics, they are bound to be better investors. They are bound to be better decision makers. But by design, you are not taught that. You have to pay top dollar to learn those things. And even then, you are only taught things that will benefit big corporations when you are working for them as a consultant or as a job person, right? Or you're doing a job over there. So it is important for people like Aman, going into colleges and teaching about cryptocurrencies. But I would say that somebody should stand up, forget Bitcoin, forget cryptocurrencies. Somebody should stand up and start a course for school students and talk about how money works. Just go to schools and teach people how money works, and they will start, then let them take the decision, right? Show them what are the options. They could start investing in gold, and that would be still good for them, right? Relatives, Aman was talking about relatives. If my relative is going to give me 1,000 rupees, as a kid, I would have bought chocolates with it, or probably my parents would have taken it away from me, right? But what if we teach people about money? Yeah.
anything which has to be included into our education system has to be first approved by a lot of people. So if the government is reluctant and it treats crypto as something, a metaphor, they cannot most probably include it into
See,
the education system. So here there is a gap.
yeah.
There has to be a
No, but that
solution to
gap
it.
is by design. Sid, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this gap
Yeah,
is
sure.
by design because you cannot. Government is not going to keep up with you. Okay, I'll tell you a very simple example. We call ourselves millennials and Gen Z, right? The people who are into crypto are millennials or Gen Z, right? But people in media who are taking decisions on what goes out, what gets published, are not millennials. They are the one generation above it, right? So the government is the same thing, right? We have people one generation above the people who are actually building stuff. So if you are going to have one generation above the people who are actually building stuff, making the regulations on the things that are being built, they are not going to be on par with what we want it to be. So this is democracy, right? Forget there is a ruling party, there is a government, but we need to come out and sort of be able to educate the citizens, and then that's how they begin their journey into becoming that self, like a businessman or a job or even a good voter in a democracy, right? I think that we have forgotten those ethos over time because we are brainwashed with a lot of content and a lot of schooling and a lot of education and a lot of force on becoming engineers, that we have to take that power back and we have to go back to schools and we have to do it, like we the citizens. We cannot expect the government to do it because it's working against them. So that's the thing.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Very true.
really, really interesting results by people. A lot of people are saying that they would wait for regulations to come in before they even try it. About 38 people have voted till now, and I mean, uh, this people, guys, what's wrong? Yeah, you guys must hit on the red one.
No, it's okay.
Anyways,
It's okay.
No, I think, see,
I won't care about the regulations. I won't miss the opportunity and just buy.
No, I think it's okay. I think that it's okay that they want to wait till regulations. Most of us instinctively do not want to get into trouble because it's a lot of trouble getting out of it if the government official just catches us into something. Okay, so we stay away from trouble.
I think
We
more
don't.
than,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I
sorry,
think
more than
Aman, you can
government
take it over.
officials,
Yeah.
there are some projects. See, what has happened? Every fortnight, I get a call or we get an email that something has happened with their wallet, or some project has actually duped them because of over promising that this will actually give 10, 20, 30x returns. So I think the regulation plays an important role. It's not just about I would wait until the regulation comes in. Because see, the best trader is the one who actually protects the loss, who does not make money. Right? If I'm trading with $100, if I'm starting with $100, I would be known as a best person in the crypto space if I could actually protect my $100. Right?
Correct.
If I'm making money, I'm a person who actually knows the art of it, or I've got into this cryptocurrency very early in the life cycle of a price action. But for somebody to protect $100, even 100 rupees, he or she needs to understand what are the fences around it. If my 100 rupees gets into the trouble, can I knock into a door of someone and ask what has happened? Right? Which is not there at this point. So most of the students or most of the people are still in the phase that even if I need to wait, even if the Bitcoin touches $50,000, the moment the regulation comes in, I would go ahead and invest not only $100, possibly $1,000 at that point, right? Because considering the inflation around. But I need somebody to actually give answers to the questions if anything happens, if not when. Correct? So I think that if has to be answered or if has to be there as a platform or a bridge which can actually be provided through a constructive conversation with Anush. Varun is unfortunately not there on our session. So once these people start actually becoming the regulators forefront or front end to actually answer the queries of the people, I think that's the time when 38 will convert into the option 1 very soon.
Yeah.
That's great. Nemesh, you want to add something? It seems.
No. I think that we should take questions from the comments. One of them actually was that, oh, it's not backed by gold, the one that I was talking about. So you see
Correct.
the level that we need to go down to, right? Like that's the level we have to go to.
So, since you talked about gold, I'll just take a minute over here. India is a country which is known as a gold land from the world. Right? And who manages gold in India? Most of the housewives.
Yeah.
Correct? Because it is being given in
Correct.
exchange during the ceremonies or functions. And there has been no what you call education or a literacy in terms of making them better money managers. India is a country where 1.8 trillion ton gold is lying at this point in time. Correct? So, if we actually look at who are the better managers or the people who are sitting on what you call asset under management, is the housewives or the women who are managing or who have the gold, either in terms of an ornament, either in terms of some kind of a jewelry which has been given in exchange. But they don't really have a mechanism to look at what this jewelry can do for me if I can start looking at different financial instruments in terms of comparison. So it has to be not only, like Siddharth pointed out, it does not have to be only an Information Technology Act. Because for most of the housewives, neither Information Technology Act, neither National Education Policy, neither regulation will work. It has to be the awareness. See, the only thing which is constant is the change. Correct?
Correct.
And the only learning which you have to start from your home. Like the day I got to learn about cryptocurrencies, after a month or 2 months, I started discussing with my mother. I started discussing with my neighbors. And I would not reveal where do I live. Most of the 3 or 5 people in my society and the women are more excited about this space than the men. Right?
Because they want to invest.
You look at from the legacy part, right? You look at from who has been taking care of these assets. So that is a correlation. If you have to look into it, I think if the crypto regulation has to be successful, women leaders have to come in forefront, along with the support of media, which Nemesh is representing, regulation, which Anush is representing. And also the students will act as a catalyst. Then all of us will just see a new sunshine, talk about regulators, talk about any technology act. I think it will just be a cakewalk for us. That's just my 2 cents.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody from the audience just asked that, how can I escape from tax when buying crypto from India? I just think, Anush, can you answer him? I mean, there is a misconception in people that, if they buy crypto, they won't have to pay any tax. And I just think they are going in the wrong direction. You have to declare your crypto. You have to pay tax. Anush, you are from tax background. Just try and educate a few people over here.
Siddharth, you already answered the question. Okay, just to lay the groundwork, there is absolutely no law which mentions that crypto is exempt from tax. The tax law is very clear that any income you make, any income, even so far as whether it's legal income or it's illegal income, the government can claim taxes. So even if you're a smuggler and you made money, you might be put in jail, but the government might come and ask you for taxes on that smuggling income. That's how the tax law is worded. What's important here is, unfortunately, there are multiple ways how people can be anonymous while dealing. So obviously nobody gets to know whether you're dealing in crypto or not, but the intent is important. We are the first few people who are in this space, and if we try and spread the word that taxes can be evaded, you can have totally anonymous wealth, stuff like that, that's not going to get us anywhere. That's giving fuel to the government's existing fire, that we are going to ban this because tax evasion is another issue. So definitely tax evasion or the intent of evading taxes should not be kept in mind when we are talking about crypto. Get into it, innovate, make money, pay your taxes, live a happy life, because you might make a lot of money in crypto, and once you've made that, then there is literally no way you can spend it without paying taxes, right? So that small amount that you need to pay now will really keep you in a comfort zone later on, whereas if you keep trying and evading it later on, you're in a much bigger soup.
I think it's imperative to add that the tax department is more aware of how cryptocurrencies work than any one of us sitting in the panel, actually, to be very honest. So there are people
Combine of
who
all.
are, yeah, who are very aware of it, right? So don't do that.
See, I think the
That's
rebel
great.
kind of an
All right.
attitude would not work. I think there
Yeah,
has
go
to
ahead.
be a hand-in-hand approach. Most of the people say that I am against the government. You can be against the governance, but you cannot be against the government. You need to look
Correct.
at what are the ways which can actually work in favor for you and how you can put across your thoughts. And it can be included in some of the suggestions or some of the documents or some of the uh, policies they are coming up. So that the rebellious kind of an attitude would not work, I think, in any technology adoption, because we together have to win this race. You cannot just have your build your own empire and have the barren land around it. I think it has to be a fertile for all of us so that each of us can live a happy life.
Sure. So yeah, we are now, I think, nearing the end of this the time slot which has been given. So I'll just conclude. Thank you so much, Aman, Nimesh, Anush, for joining. Varun and Siddharth couldn't join. I think they had connection issues and Siddharth wasn't feeling well. But it was really educating for the audience. A lot of people have commented that they are learning, and a good opinion from the audience as well. We've got 44 votes, whereas 25 say that they will wait for regulations. So this gives us a window to work on the regulations as fast as we can. We at Krebaco are trying to build representations in association with a few top law firms. We are in process of setting up an autonomous non-profit body called ABCD, which is Association for Blockchain, Crypto, and Digital Assets, and will be coming with some few representations for the government in a few weeks' time. I believe it would take a month more from where we are today. And I just want to represent this with the entire crypto community. Go to the governments, the right departments, because each government department has a different perspective when it comes about crypto. Like if it's mighty, they would probably understand uh, what crypto and tech is. But if we go to the tax departments or we go to the Ministry of Finance, they will still have their confusions about how the entire ecosystem works. And I welcome all the industry players to come and help us do this as fast as we can, and we'll take it from there. I'll just share the screen once again to let you guys know what the results are. There are 44 votes, and we are still counting. Uh, People are
So
still
Siddharth,
waiting
I
for
think we can
regulations.
keep
We
this
should push
poll
it.
live. Yeah, we can
Yes.
keep this poll live on Twitter and also on the Telegram group. We have about 5,000 plus people. And about, I think, 125 people have viewed this session or more. And I think there has been some questions regarding where to go and how to vote. But we'll keep this poll open. I think this would actually give us a lot of a clarity to you. And we all are there to support in the regulations if we can actually be there in any way. And I think together we can win. And that's all from my side. I think this has been a great panel discussion, lot to learn from Anush and Amish, and also very exciting set of questions. Siddharth.
Yeah, thank you so much, Siddharth.
Thank you so
My
much. Oh,
closing, one second, just our closing thought
yeah,
is
yeah, go
that
ahead, go ahead,
people
go ahead.
have we've not been able to answer a lot of questions in the comments, and some
Yeah.
of them are very basic about what is cryptocurrency mining, what is Bitcoin mining, how can they do it, how to invest. So I would say that Aman is launching the academia, the education program. You can go to zubi.io, they will be able to help you out. You can go to coincrunch.in and just search Bitcoin, and you get some educational articles that we have on coincrunch.in. We also have an educational article on tax, which Anush has written actually. So a lot of resources are there on multiple platforms. Just do a Google search and write India next to it, and you will find a lot of information on it. And some of the genuine information is on the top. So don't worry about being into the wrong module. So go ahead, all the students who are watching, go ahead, research, and figure out why you should be investing or not investing in cryptocurrencies. Don't wait for regulations, even though 25 people have voted it, but just research, right? Yeah,
Absolutely. So
that's my
over to
closing
you,
thought.
Puneet. Are you there?
Yes, thank you, Siddharth. Actually, I just dropped in for last 2 minutes. I think there was a drop on my internet. So thank you, panel members, for joining in. Thanks, Namish, Anoush, Siddharth, Aman. We missed Varun, and we missed Siddharth Sogani from Wazirex.
Yeah, we received a personal apology from both of them. They said, Varun said he cannot make it because of his internet connection, and Siddharth has been unwell at the last moment. So I think there has been apology. But we will keep these discussions more often so that each of us get to learn from each other and the audience can go back with some constructive thought process.
All right. How do we drop off?
Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks a lot.